Hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how we can use typing biometrics as a form of two-factor authentication to verify users that are signing in or creating accounts on our website or platform. Now this technology is really cool. A company called TypingDNA has two APIs, one called the Authentication API, another called the Verify API, and in this video I'm going to be showing you their new API, which is the Verify API, which is a much simpler version of what I'd actually shown previously on this channel, which was their Authentication API. So if you're a little bit confused, essentially what this means, or what I'm going to be showing you here, is how you can have a two-factor authentication method that does not involve the user constantly having to type in two-factor authentication codes, so SMS codes or email codes, and actually uses their typing pattern and their typing biometrics to verify them. Now, of course, if that verification fails, there will be a two-factor authentication code sent to the user, but this is great, and there's a lot of advantages behind using this typing biometrics as your kind of default two-factor authentication rather than constantly sending two-factor authentication codes. Now, I do need to mention that this video is sponsored by TypingDNA. They have paid me to create this, but I've been working with TypingDNA a lot recently. I think we've done maybe 3 or 4 different collaborations already. They're a great company. They have great technology, and I think you guys are going to be excited to see what we can do here and how simple it is, especially compared to the last API, which was their Authentication API, which again, if you want to check out the video for, I have a link in the description, and I'll kind of throw up the thumbnail and a card for it on the screen right now. Regardless, let me just kind of show you how this works, and then talk to you about some of the advantages. So let's actually just go and look at the demo. So what I'm going to do is just go over here to TypingDNA Verify and start the demo. Okay, so the first thing you need to do here is enter a phone number or enter an email. Now, what I'm going to do is enter kind of a dummy email that I set up previously that I just use for videos like this. It's called Code Racer Live Stream App at gmail.com. I'm going to start the demo. It says, okay, do you want to verify with TypingDNA? Yes, I do. So I'll press verify with TypingDNA. A pop-up comes up. It asks me to type in the following. And notice as I'm doing this, it is tracking my typing pattern. So yellow, toothbrush, socks, firearm. Okay, let's verify. This time only to register, you have to type 2 more times. Okay, so let's do that. Yellow, toothbrush, socks, firearm. Okay, and then yellow, toothbrush, socks, and firearm. Now notice I spelled this wrong, so I need to go back and fix this. Okay, I agree, and now next. All right, let's see what it says here. Almost there. Email verification. A 6-digit code was sent to your email. Enter the code below. I'm gonna grab that code. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the code. I'm gonna press next. And now you're going to see that it verified me successfully. So what I just did here was enroll my typing pattern, kind of create an account with TypingDNA if you want to think of it like that. And now every time I try to sign in, so let's actually go ahead and do this. I'm going to try to sign in with my email here. You're going to see that it's going to actually use my previous typing patterns to authenticate me here. So now this time when I type yellow, toothbrush, socks, and then firearm, of course, I'm going to make typos there. I'm going to press verify, and then it says my verification was successful. My typing pattern here matched the typing patterns I enrolled with it previously. All right, so that was kind of the demo and explanation of TypingDNA Verify. Now, our implementation here is going to be using Node.js, Express, and then PUG for the front end. You can see the front end is extremely simple. If you don't know any of those technologies, don't worry. We're hardly using them. It's just to have a really basic web server running. And well, what we're going to do here is have a button. It's going to say verify with TypingDNA. And then same way as before, you're going to type in your stuff. Okay. Notice I typed this wrong, so I need to fix it. Going to press verify. And then you're going to see that it's going to verify the typing pattern. Now, the reason it's not asking me to insert an email is because the email is hard-coded in the back end. But if you wanted to not have the email hard-coded, that's super simple. Again, this is just meant to give you the simplest implementation. So then you can go and extend it and add to it and actually maybe add it into an app that you already have. There you go. So that's what we're going to be doing. Again, we're using Express, Node.js, and then PUG for the front end, but really minimally for all of those. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just quickly show you. I'm going to go back to just the TypingDNA website. I just want to quickly show you some of the core advantages of actually doing this, of having this type of authentication. So if I go to verify and I press learn more, it's going to redirect me here. And I'll just kind of go through the website because they lay it out pretty nicely. But first of all, this is a much better user experience when you have people just able to type something in really quickly and have them authenticated from that, rather than having them have to go to their phone or open their email or whatever, wait for a code to come in, and then insert that code. It also keeps your SMS costs low, right? And it uses the SMS codes or the email codes, as the root of trust, not the de facto authentication. So it's not the default method. It's only what you go to when the actual verification fails from typing. And then, of course, this is state-of-the-art authentication. This is actually really good. I'm always really impressed at how well this typing biometric stuff actually works. I don't know exactly how it's implemented or the technology behind it, but I know it's very advanced, proprietary, and, well, just quite good. Okay, anyways, that is enough about this itself. Now what I want to do is start walking us through how we can actually implement this. We're going to have to install and set up a few things. Let's go through those steps now. All right, so the first step here is going to be to create an account on TypingDNA. Now, TypingDNA is completely free for the first year that you're using it for, so don't worry about that. Just go to the TypingDNA website. I'll have a link to it in the description. And what you're going to do is create an account. So go to the verify page, right, and then press start for free. And then what you're going to see is that it would bring you to a page where you need to create an account. Now, for me, it's bringing me right to my dashboard because I've already created an account. So at this point in time, if you don't have an account, pause, make one, and then resume the video. And I'm going to go through the steps we need to follow once we're in our dashboard. All right, so we're in our dashboard now. I've just set up a kind of brand new fresh account so I can go through the steps with you. The first thing that we need to do here is we need to connect an SMS gateway, or an email gateway to our dashboard. Now, the reason we need to do this is because we have to have either SMS or email as kind of our two-factor method, right? So if the verification fails from the typing biometrics, we need to be able to send a code either via SMS or via email to the user. So we have to pick one of these or both of them if you want the users to be able to sign in with both phone or email. In our case, we're just going to do email here, but if you wanted to do phone, it would be the exact same steps, and I'll show you later in the video how you do this using SMS. The only change is that you're going to connect your Twilio or however you say that, rather than connecting the SendGrid. Okay, but we're going to connect the SendGrid, and the thing with this is this one is free. If you use the SMS, it's going to cost you about $20 to actually get started. So let's go and connect an email gateway, and notice it's telling us we have to type in a SendGrid API and then our sender identity. So this means we need to go to the SendGrid website. So we're going to go to SendGrid like that, and we're going to make a new account. So I've already made an account on SendGrid. I'm going to sign into it here, but for you guys, what you'll need to do, and let me just sign into this first, is make a new account on SendGrid, and then I'm going to show you once I get in here how you do all the configurations, of course, after I put in the two-factor code. Okay, so I'm into SendGrid now. Again, I already have an account created. You guys have to make one first, but once you make one, it's going to ask you a few different setup steps. Most of them are intuitive. I'm not going to walk through everything, but what you do need to do once you're in the account and once you've verified your email and you've created your sender email and all of that is you need to create an API key. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just see if I can go to the account details or the setup guide here and just make sure I can walk you guys through any steps that maybe are not intuitive. So the first thing you need to do is create a sender identity. I think this is pretty straightforward to walk through, but you need to do that. Create a sender identity. You can use the same email you used to sign up here. I just made a random Gmail email and use that as my sender identity. Next, what you're going to need to do is, actually not send your first email. You're going to need to verify that sender identity. So you're going to have access to that email account, press the email it sends you, and then you should be good. You should have the sender thing set up. Once you've done that, again, you need to make an API token. So what you're going to do is go to settings. You're going to go to API keys, and then you're going to make an API key. Now, I'll just make one here. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to name this tutorial. Okay. And then give it full access. Okay, so give it full access, make it tutorial, and then it's going to show you this token. Now, it only shows it to you one time, so make sure you copy it immediately. You're going to copy this token, go over to your dashboard on TypingDNA, and then you're going to paste that token in here. Okay, next, what you're going to do is type the email that you put in as the sender from SendGrid. So it's possible to have an account with SendGrid that has a different sending email. So if this email you're sending emails from is different, then you're going to put that one here. In my case, they're both the same, but whatever you put into SendGrid to actually send the emails to people, that's the one that you want. So here, what I'm going to do is put in my email. So this was, what was it? Code Racer Live, got to spell that right, live stream app at gmail.com. Okay, Code Racer livestream app at gmail.com. Looks good. And then you're going to press this little upload button here. It's going to sync, make sure it's all good. And then if it says email gateway key saved, you're good. You see a little check mark and you've hooked up SendGrid. So that's how you hook up SendGrid. Again, pretty intuitive. I figured this out pretty easily on my own, but those are kind of the steps. Okay, I'm going to press done now, and then you'll see I have 2 API keys here. It's fine. You guys will just have 1. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to actually create an integration with TypingDNA. So we have our client ID and our client secret, which we need, but we also need an application ID. And this is because you can have multiple applications connected to TypingDNA. So what I'm going to do is add my first integration. This is really just like connecting an app to it. And then what I'm going to do here is put the name. So I'll just do tutorial and then the domain that this is going to be connected to. So unfortunately, we cannot use localhost for our development or testing for this. We do need to use some real domain that is HTTPS. So it needs to be SSL certified. It needs to be HTTPS. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to install a program called ngrok, that's going to allow us to actually have this kind of temporary domain that points to localhost that we can use in development. So what we're going to do is go to ngrok. We're going to download this tool. I'll leave a link to all of this stuff in the description. So just go and press download for Windows, Mac, or whatever system it is that you are on. And then what it's going to do when you download it, let me just download this here to my downloads. Okay, so let's download it here. Okay, so once it's downloaded, it's going to have a zip folder. So what you're going to do is open up the zip folder. You're going to see there's an application here, and then you're going to cut this application out and you're going to put it somewhere that it's easily accessible. So in my case, I'm just going to go to the desktop. I'm going to go to my TypingDNA tutorial folder. I'm going to paste it inside of here so that I have ngrok, this exe application, in the folder that I use when I start writing some code. Okay, so that's going to take a second. Once that's done, I don't know why that's lagging. Then we have ngrok. What we're going to need to do is now use ngrok to create our domain. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I've just opened up the folder where I have ngrok. Now this is pretty easy to do or pretty easy to use, but what you're going to need to do is open up a command prompt or terminal that is in the same directory as this file. It doesn't matter where it is. You just need to know where it is so you can open up a command prompt or terminal. So I'm just going to open it in Windows Explorer. I'm going to go to this top bar here. I'm going to type CMD, and that's going to open up my command prompt. Now what I'm going to do is type ngrok, HTTP, and then 3000. Now what this will actually do is it will create a temporary URL. I believe this URL lasts for about 2 hours that actually forwards all of the requests from it to a port on your local machine. So in this case, we're going to run our server on port 3000. This is going to be HTTP. This is the protocol that we're using. And so what this will do now is create a domain for us that accepts HTTP requests and then forwards all of them to our local host. And then the local host will go back to the domain and the domain will return to wherever it was requested from. So this will give us access to an HTTPS domain that we can use for testing purposes. So if you do this and you run, you're going to see that it says, okay, the session expires in 2 hours. You have a version, region, web interface, and then what you want to look for here is this HTTPS domain. So I'm going to copy that. You want to copy this whole thing here. And what we're going to do is, notice, by the way, it's going to localhost 3000. We want to go back to TypingDNA, and we want to insert our domain here, but we want to make sure we remove the HTTPS. So you just want the domain, so all of these kind of random numbers and letters, .ngrok.io. So put that there. Then you're going to say create integration, and it's going to show you the application ID. Perfect. We now have all of the 3 things that we need to actually start working on our application. So we've set up SendGrid, we have ngrok going, we have our client ID, our client secret, and then this is known as our application ID. Now what we need to do is actually start writing some code. So the next thing we're going to need to do, is install Node.js. So I forgot you do need Node.js. So go to Node.js. Again, I'll link this in the description. Download the latest version if you don't already have that. And then what I'm going to do is open up VS Code. I opened that folder that you saw I have ngrok inside of, and this is where we'll set up our actual server and start doing all of the development. So you can use whatever editor you want, obviously. VS Code is just my preferred one, so that's why I'm using it. Now what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to open up the VS Code terminal, and I'm going to create a kind of starting or template express application in Node.js. So you can see here, I've opened up my terminal. Notice it's in the TypingDNA tutorial folder. Again, do this wherever you want. I'm just doing this on a folder on my desktop. What I'm going to type now is npx, and then this is going to be express-generator like that. Now, I think I spelled generator correctly. Yes, it does. Or yes, I did, sorry. And then I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this website. So what we're doing is we're going to use this kind of shortcut here that comes from Node.js. So npx express generator website, and this will create a new folder for us named website that has all of the Node stuff that we need to actually have an Express application. Now, a lot of the stuff in here we're not going to actually need, and I'll show you how we can clean that up in a second, but this will just save us a little bit of time. Okay, so we did that, and now notice it's going to create this website folder for us, and there's a bunch of stuff inside of here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to start deleting stuff that we don't need. So we're actually going to delete all of these folders here except for views. So we're going to delete all of these, bin, public, and roots. We don't need those. And then we're going to have to change some stuff in some of the other folders as well. Okay, we're now going to go to views. We're going to delete all of the files inside of views, but we'll keep that directory because we will use that directory in a second. Then we're going to go inside of app.js, and we're just going to start deleting stuff that we don't need. So we don't need this cookie parser. We don't need this logger. We don't need this index router or this user router. We'll leave this for now. We don't need any of this stuff right here, so we can get rid of all of that. We don't need any of these lines, any of these app.uses. We'll get rid of those. We can leave this catch. Actually, I'm thinking if we need this or not. Okay, so actually I lied. We are going to delete more stuff. We're going to delete all of this. Okay. And we are going to delete this create error thing. And then this is what our file should look like for now. Really, we could have probably just written this file from scratch on our own, but it's fine. I figured we could just use this shortcut and maybe it would save us a bit of time. Maybe not. Okay, so now that we've done this, we're just going to leave the file like this for now. We're going to come back to it in a second, but this is where we're going to write a lot of our code. This is going to be kind of our server, our backend, and then I'll show you how we can set up the templates in the front end in a minute. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to install all of our Node modules. So we have this package.json, and this has all of the dependencies that we need. And actually, if we go inside of here, we can see that some of the stuff we don't need. For example, we don't need Morgan. We can remove that. We don't need HTTP errors. We can get rid of that. We do need debug, but we don't need cookie parser. Okay, so these are the three dependencies that we need for right now. Now, what we can actually do is we can go and cd into our website folder. So cd website, and we can do npm install like this. And what this is going to do is install all of these dependencies right here for us. Then we're going to add a few dependencies here that we need, specifically related to TypingDNA, and we should be good to go. Okay, so you can see that was pretty fast. We installed all of the dependencies. All of them are inside of the Node modules folder now. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to install PUG. So we're going to say npm install. We're going to do -S to save, and then we're going to type PUG. PUG is what we're going to use as our kind of templating engine in the front end. So npm install -S PUG. Okay, that one's going to take a second. And then once that one is done, what we need to do is install the TypingDNA Verify client, which is a Node.js package or npm package. So now we're going to type npm install and then TypingDNA-verify-client. Okay, so let's install that. Give that a second. Now, it's worth noting here that if you are not going to be using JavaScript, there is some other clients. I believe there's one for PHP. I think there's one for C# as well. And I believe more are being created. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. You don't just have to do this from an Express or Node application, but this is definitely the simplest way. And again, even if you're not using this programming language, I'd recommend you just follow along because this is going to explain a lot of stuff and probably save you a good amount of time going forward. Okay, so we've installed all of the stuff that we need. I'm just making sure we don't need anything else. And at this point in time, I think we're actually ready to start doing some development. So we've got all of our packages installed. And now what we are going to do is start working in this file right here. So there's a few things that we need to set up here related to Express. The first is a router. So we need some way to actually handle all of our traffic and create different routes, right? So like /home, /verify, /result, etc. So what we're going to do here is say var router is equal to, and then this is going to be express.router like that. Okay, next what we are going to do is at the bottom of our program, we're going to say app.use, and then we're going to put a / here, and we're going to say router. So this should give all of the traffic that's going to the /route to the router so then it can handle what different routes we have on our website. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to make this app actually start listening on a specific port. So we need to actually run the server here. So we're going to say app.listen, and then we're just going to put inside of here port 3000. Sorry, not 30,000, 3000. And then we can just do a console.log here. So console.log, and we can say listening on port 3000, just so we know that this is running. We don't need the module.exports, so we'll get rid of that. And now we can actually just test this and see if it's working so far. Now, right now, it's not going to do anything. We don't have any routes set up, but we should be able to see if this is working. So to run this, what we're going to do is say node, and then we are going to put the name, so app.js. Okay, it says listing on port 3000. We are all good. That means this is working fine. Now we can start setting up some of our views and routes. All right, so now we're going to start setting up some of the templates and the different views of our application. Once we have the view set up, then of course we can integrate TypingDNA. We'll add that TypingDNA button, and I'll show you how all of that stuff works. What we need to do though is we need to change our rendering engine here to be PUG instead of Jade. So we're going to go ahead and make that change, and then see we have this views folder. This is where we're going to put all of our PUG templates. Now, if you're unfamiliar with PUG templates, don't worry. I won't explain them a ton, but they're pretty simple and easy to understand. What I'm going to do is make a new file inside of views. I'm going to call this verify.pug. Okay, you should see that you're getting that little PUG logo, which I think is hilarious. And now we'll just start creating our first template. So this is pretty straightforward. What you can do is do HTML. The indentation is important here, so make sure you keep the indentation. I'm going to say head, and then I'm going to put my body tag like that. And then what I'm going to do here is just say H1. I'm going to say welcome to TypingDNA Demo. Okay, that's going to be my first template. Super simple. All I'm showing is just this H1 tag that says welcome to TypingDNA Demo, and I'll show you how we can actually pass values into these templates when we render them from app.js. All right, so we're going to create our first route here. So what we're going to do is say router.get. This means we're going to accept a GET request for this specific route. We're going to say /verify is the endpoint or the URL that we want to go to. And then we are going to create a function. So we're going to do the two brackets like this. We're going to do an arrow. We're going to take the request and then the response. Yes, I believe that's correct. And then inside of here is where we're actually going to code out what we should do when we go to the /verify endpoint. So all I want to do right now is I want to say res, which stands for response, dot render, and I'm going to render my PUG template. So I'm just going to render verify like that, and that's all I need to do right now. So what this does when I say res.render is it looks inside of my views folder, which has already been set up here. So we've kind of added this path, looks for the verify template, and then it's going to render that template or return that template as the response when we go to the /verify endpoint. So we can test this pretty simply. We're going to run our application. Now, what we'll do is we will go to our browser. Which browser should I go to? I guess I can just go to this one, and we'll go to localhost 3000, and we are going to go to /verify. Okay. And when we go to /verify, notice we get our H1 and it says welcome to TypingDNA Demo. Perfect. Now, I did not forget about ngrok, so I'm going to show you that now. Notice how ngrok, this URL, is redirecting to localhost 3000. So what I can do is I can also go to this URL. So I'm going to copy this HTTPS URL, going to go to my browser. I'll go a new tab here, press enter, and then same thing. I need to go to /verify because we don't have a default route. And then it brings me to the same page. There you go. Pretty straightforward. That's how it works. So from now on, we'll use this URL. We can use the localhost one, that's fine, but this one is preferred. And actually, to make sure it's all going to work with TypingDNA, I believe we do actually have to be on this URL, but at this point in time, we're not using TypingDNA yet, and so it's not an issue. Okay, nice. So now we've set up our first route. So what I want to do is I want to start integrating TypingDNA. Ideally, we're going to have a button on this screen, and then what the button is going to do is it's going to render that kind of pop-up you saw before that's all handled by TypingDNA. We don't need to code any of that, and then verify our user for us. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create, or actually kind of import here, the TypingDNA client. So I'm going to say var TypingDNA and then client like that. And we'll just specify this, that is the verify client. So TypingDNA verify client is equal to, and then we are going to require, and this will be the TypingDNA verify client. Let me make sure that's correct. Looks like it is. All right, so now that we have required the correct resource here, we need TypingDNA verify client. We're going to create an instance of it and then pass through all of our credentials. So the application ID, the client ID, and the client secret, the three things that we need to actually kind of, verify our application with TypingDNA. So we're going to say var, and then this is going to be TypingDNA client like that is equal to new, and then this will be TypingDNA client, TypingDNA verify client. And then what we are going to pass here is an object that has the following. The first thing that we need is the client ID. We then need the client secret, or is it just called secret? Let me see what I've called it here. Okay, it's just secret. Okay, so just secret like that. And then lastly, we need the application ID. Okay, so we have all of these three values. They're on the TypingDNA website. So we're going to open that up. I'm going to go, that's the wrong browser. I have too many browsers here. This is the correct browser. I'm going to go to my verified dashboard here, and then notice I have my client ID, secret, and then the application ID. So I'm going to grab the client ID. I'm going to put it inside of here, make sure it's in a string. Okay, there we go. Now we need to go grab the rest of them. So we'll grab the client secret. I'm going to expose mine for now. Obviously, by the time you guys watch this, I will have deleted this account so that you guys can't hack me. Okay, so we'll put our secret in. And then lastly, we need the app ID. We can go ahead and grab that one. All right. Okay, so let's paste that there. This looks good. I messed something up here. Okay, save that, and there you go. Nice, auto format. Beautiful. Now we have the ID, the secret, and the application ID. We've created the TypingDNA client, and we've kind of instantiated this module and hooked up TypingDNA at least from the kind of beginning. All right, so there's two sides to TypingDNA. We have the backend and we have the front end. Now, the backend is responsible for sending requests to TypingDNA to get information that we need to render the front end button properly. So the only thing we're showing on the front end relevant to TypingDNA is a single button that has some special information on it, and then that button will render a pop-up, and that pop-up is completely handled by TypingDNA, specifically by this verify client, and that deals with the two-factor authentication codes and all of the stuff that we don't want to look at. However, we do need to send a request from the backend to TypingDNA to get some attributes that we need to pass to the button in the front end. So I'm going to show you how we can do that, but I want to go to the verify documentation and just quickly walk you through it so everyone's clear on what's going on. So you go to the dashboard and you go to documentation, it'll bring you to a new page. And now I'm just going to kind of show you how exactly you do this. And by the way, you can refer to this in case there's anything here that I don't show you. So notice you have a backend and a front. It's saying get the verify client. We have that already, okay? Initialize the verify client. We just did that. We put in the ID, the application ID, and the secret. Obviously, you would keep the secret, but for our purposes, just a tutorial, that's fine. And then it says pass user data to the front end. Okay, so once initialized, the next step is to retrieve the end user data in the backend for encryption and linking with the front end button created in the next step. So what we need to call is this get data attributes method, and we pass the email, phone number, or whatever it is, either or, to TypingDNA. And then what it's going to return to us is three things. It's going to return to us, I believe, the client ID, the application ID, and then it's going to give us a payload. Now, all three of those things we need to actually render our front-end button, because based on those pieces of information, the button's going to show a different pop-up. So you can kind of read through this and see exactly how it works. But essentially, this is telling us, hey, once you figure out what user it is that's signing in, whether you have their email or their phone number, you got to send that to us. We're going to send you something back, and then you can use that to render your front-end button. So that's really the main step in the back end, is to use this, okay? Next, though, we need to render the front-end button. And the way we do this is we integrate this script in our HTML. So we put this in the head of our HTML document, and then we need to put this button on the screen with the appropriate information. So this right here returns to us these three things, right? The client ID, the application ID, and the payload. And then we pass the name of a function that we want to be called once the authentication is done. So once the authentication is done, it's going to have a callback method that it calls. This is a method or function that we implement ourselves. And then from there, we can handle, any errors or pop-ups or whatever it may be. Okay, hopefully that's clear, but that's kind of the process. Pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do, though, is actually, I don't need to copy this. We'll just write it from scratch. Okay, so what I want to do, because I want to keep this super simple, is as soon as I go to this verify page here, I want to immediately send my email to TypingDNA and get the three pieces of information, the ID, the application ID, and the payload that I need to render my front-end button. I then want to pass those pieces of information to my front end template here, and then I can actually display the button on the screen. And then when I press the button, I can well be verified. So let's do this. So what I'm going to do here, let me just look at my cheat sheet, is say actually, I don't even need a let. I think I can say const typing DNA, and then this will be data attributes is equal to, and this will be typing DNA client. Notice not verify client, it's typing DNA client dot, and then this is get data attributes. You can see we're getting that completion there. And then inside of here, we're passing an object, and what we want to pass is the following. We want to pass an email, want to pass an optional phone number. The email is optional as well. If you pass the phone number, you need one of the two. And then we can optionally pass the following: a language, which is going to be EN for English, and then a mode. Now I'll explain the mode in a second, but for now we're just going to use standard. Okay. So what we can do here is we can either pass an email or a phone number. We don't have to pass them. We can pass both, but we have to either have an email or a phone number. In my case, I'm just going to do an email. So for the phone number, I'll just leave it blank. So I'll just put it as an empty string. And for the email, I'm going to use that same email that I've been using for everything. So coderacer_livestreamapp@gmail.com. So this is where you would put the user's email. So usually you would collect an email from them, and then you would put that into this field. But since I don't even want to deal with doing that, we'll just hard code in an email, and we'll always have this user here. Okay, so let's save that. That's good. These two things are optional. You can change the language. Right now, I think it's only English that's supported. In the future, they will have more languages. And then there's another mode here that's not standard called show OTP. Now, OTP is that one-time password, right? So let me go to verify here, and let's see if it says anything about the mode. All right, so I found the two modes here. Now you guys can pause and read these if you like. Again, they're in the documentation though, which I'll link in the description. Essentially, the show OTP mode just means that you are actually going to be shown what the one-time password is. So the user will get shown that, and they'll have to type that in to the field. So you can see it says after the verification process is finished and the user has inserted the code into the input field on your front end, a request to the backend is made. So they'll get the one-time code and then they have to insert it manually. Whereas here, the one-time code will just automatically be applied so they don't have to type it in. Again, read through if you want all the details. Standard mode is just simpler. I would just recommend you go with standard mode, but some cases you might need to use this mode. Okay, so now that we understand that, what we're going to do is leave the mode as standard, obviously, and we are going to actually check if this is working, and we're going to have a look at what the TypingDNA data attributes are. So I'm going to go here and just say console.log. I'm going to log the TypingDNA data attributes, and I am going to end my server by hitting Control-C and rerun it. Okay, so now what I will do is go here. I will refresh, and then notice here we get this. We get a client ID, application ID, and a payload. So these are the three things that are being returned to us. Now, all three of these things we need on the button that we're going to render on the screen. So now what we're going to do is render that button. So we're going to go to our verify.pug template. I'm just going to go back to the documentation here. I'm going to start copying some of the things that we need. So notice here we need this script. So I'm going to copy this script. It comes from a CDN, so it's really easy to use. So copy this. All right, so we're in the template. What I'm going to do now is use the pipe operator and then put my script. I'm going to put a tab here so the indentation is correct. What this does is this makes it so this is read as plain text. And essentially this just means that we can embed HTML tags in this kind of weird syntax PUG template. I'm definitely not an expert with PUG, but you just put this and then it forces this to actually be read as HTML, which is what you want. Okay, nice. So we have that. The next thing that we need to do here is we need to actually add a button. So if we look here at the documentation, this is the button that we need. So let's just copy this button for now, and then we'll modify it as we need. So we're going to copy the button, and notice this is not kind of showing up properly here, right? And the reason for this is that when we're inside of PUG, the syntax is a bit different. What we actually need to do instead is say button, open parenthesis, and then closing parenthesis like this. And then after this closing parenthesis, this is where we can put the name of our button. So in this case, it's verify with TypingDNA. So I'm going to put verify with TypingDNA. Okay, I'm going to remove that last angle bracket. I'm going to save that. And now what we need to do is change these attributes here. So for now, I'm going to make all of these empty strings. And also inside of this kind of templating language here, you need to separate all of these attributes with commas. So that's really the only change we need to make. We will fill these in a minute, but I have to show you how we can pass values to the template. So we have TypingDNA verify, That needs to be the class. Make sure that's the class of this button, otherwise it won't work. And then you're going to put these 4 things, and then we'll implement the callback function in a minute. We'll actually just do it right up here. Okay, so now that we have that, let's stop our server. Let's rerun it. And let's see if we get a button showing up on the screen when we refresh now. Okay, so when we refresh, we get verify with TypingDNA. When we press the button, notice nothing's happening. That's because we don't have the client ID, application ID, or payload. And if we go to the console of our page, we go inspect, and we look at the console, notice it tells us it's missing the application ID. Great, so we now need to figure out how to pass those things through. So what we're doing here is as soon as we go to this route, we're immediately getting the information that we need, the TypingDNA data attributes. We now need to pass this to our template. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an object, and we're going to slowly kind of extract all of this stuff inside of here. So we're going to say that the client ID, and actually, now that I think about it, what we can do here instead is we can just pass the TypingDNA data attributes. So what res.render takes is it takes the name of the template and then an object of key value pairs to be passed as kind of parameters or values to the template that can be used inside of the template. And so typically you would do something like, message and then hello. And then inside of this template, you can directly access this variable hello, and that allows you to use it inside of the template. So here, since this is already an object that has client ID, application ID, payload, we can just pass this, and I think this will work. I might be incorrect, but I believe that will work, so we'll leave it like that for now. Now, though, we need to go inside of the verify template, and the way that we're going to access all of these things is we're actually going to use backticks. We're going to use a $, and then the the curly parentheses, sorry, and inside of here, we'll use just the name of what's in the object. So client ID, application ID, and payload to access those respective values. So we're going to say client ID. I'm going to copy this. Actually, it's probably easier if I just retype it. So $, like that. I'll just copy that line. And then this will be application ID. So let's say application ID. And then finally, this is going to be the payload. Okay. So if we save this now, this should allow us to access these values and use them directly as the value for these kind of properties of the button. Hopefully that's all clear. Let's restart this. So let's close the app, rerun it. Let's now go here and refresh. Okay. And now notice if we look at the source that we're actually getting the client ID, the application ID, and the payload. All right. So what we can do now is we can just test this. The button is showing up. We have all of the stuff in the source here. We have the payload, the application ID, and the client ID. Let me just refresh this one more time. And you'll notice that every time I refresh this, the payload should change. The reason for that is every time I do this, we're sending a new request to TypingDNA. We're getting a new payload. Now, though, let me press verify with TypingDNA. When I press it, notice this appears. Pop-up is here. That means all is working. We can, have a sigh of relief. All of our hard work has paid off. And now I can start typing. Okay, so yellow, toothbrush, socks, and fireman. Okay, let's verify. And there you go. Verify. Now, the thing is, we actually don't know if that verified or not. Now, we do know it verified because it would show us a message, but we haven't implemented the callback function. So for now, let's implement the callback function and let's just print out what's actually being sent to the callback function so we can see what's going on after this button is pressed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a script here. I'm going to do, actually in plain text again, I'm going to say script and then script like that. I'm just going to write some very basic JavaScript. I'm going to make a function. I'm going to say function, and we are going to call this function callback fn. You can call it whatever you want, but if you call it something else, you have to change this to be whatever the name of it is. So notice these are, of course, the same. This is taking a payload, and then all we'll do is just say console.log payload like that. Okay, so let's just do that. Let's restart the server, and now we will refresh the page. Okay, verify with TypingDNA. We'll type yellow, toothbrush, socks, fireman. Okay, I don't know how I managed to mess that up. Verify, and then notice it gives us success. When success is equal to 1, that means yes, this was successful, and the OTP, which is the one-time password. Now, I'll show you how we can use this in a minute to do an additional verification, but that means that we are all good. Okay, now let me try to make this fail. So let's go, and I'll just type with one hand. Okay, I'm actually going to type with my pinky, and then hopefully this will mess it up. Okay, toothbrush, socks, fireman. Okay, verify, and verification failed. Please position yourself naturally and try again. Okay, so I'm gonna try to fool it because I want to show you how it sends me the one-time code. Okay, toothbrush, socks, and then fireman. Okay, verify. Typing verification failed. Okay, so now it's saying, all right, a 6-digit code was sent to your email. Enter the code below. So let me just go refresh my email and grab the code here. All right, so I was having some issue with my email there, so I ended up just closing out of that pop-up. Doesn't matter, just wanted to show you what actually happens when you fail the typing biometrics. What I'm going to do now is show you how we can add one extra layer of security here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go inside of our callback function, and we're actually going to render a new page. And this new page is going to show us the result of what just happened in the pop-up. Because you see that after we close the pop-up, right, or after we do the verification, the screen doesn't change, right? We don't see anything. And what's actually being sent to our callback function is whether or not that thing was successful, whether or not the verification was successful, and the one-time password. The thing is, we want to make sure that the one-time password sent to our callback function is actually correct. And so we're going to do an additional verification with TypingDNA. There's a method that we can use. Very simple. We're going to send the one-time password to TypingDNA and just ask it, hey, is this the correct one-time password? After we've gotten that one-time password from the Typing Biometrics authentication. So the basic flow is click the button, do your typing verification. One-time password is sent through the payload to the callback function. Callback function renders a new page verifies that the one-time password is correct, and then we're good. Your user is authenticated. So let's do that. Now, the thing is, I need to send this one-time password to the new page so that I can actually verify, right? And the way I'm going to do that for my callback function is I'm just going to change the location of the window. So I'm just going to redirect us, and using one of the query parameters, so the things that shows up in the address bar, I'm going to pass the one-time password, and I will pass the success message. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to say window.location is equal to window.origin. And then this is going to be +/result. And let me just save this. Okay, I might just have to keep scrolling. That's fine. Window.location is equal to window.origin +result +question mark. This is going to be OTP equals plus, and then payload.otp plus, and then this is going to be ampersand success equals, and then plus, and then this is going to be payload.success. So what this will end up looking like, and sorry, let me just scroll so you guys can see this here, is the following. So pause that if you want to see that, but it's going to look like this. So let me go down here. We're going to have whatever the origin of our page is, so just the root domain. So let's just say for now it's localhost :3000. This is going to be /result, and then equal sign, denoting that there's parameters. We're then going to have OTP equal to some numbers, okay? Ampersand success equals 1 or 0, whether we failed or whether we succeeded in the verification. Then this way, from app.js, we'll be able to set up a new route called /result. We'll be able to grab all of those query parameters, and we'll be able to send the request to TypingDNA. So let's actually do that now. We're going to say router.get. This is going to be /result. We're going to do the same thing. Request, response, arrow function goes to this. Okay, and then inside of here, for now, we are just going to say res.render, and we'll have a new template. This template will be result, and for now, we're not going to pass anything to it. So just go back to verify.pug. You can see that we are doing window.location. That just changes the route, so that's just going to redirect us. Redirects us to the result page. We've then set up the result route. We now need to make the new template, which is going to be result.pug. Okay, so in result.pug, we'll keep it simple. We'll go HTML. We'll go body. We don't even need a head. And for here, we'll just say h1 results for now, just so that we see something. Okay, so let's rerun our server and let's refresh this. Okay, refresh. And now we're going to go verify with TypingDNA. And now we're going to just type this in: yellow, toothbrush, socks, fireman, verify. Okay, good, brings us to the result page. Nice. So now we need to actually look at these parameters. Notice we have result, we have our OTP, and we have our success. So we're going to look at those parameters, we're going to pass them to the template, and we're going to display them here so we can see what the one-time password is, and we can see whether we were successful or not. And then, of course, we're going to send that verification to TypingDNA just to be like, okay, was this one-time password correct? So we can actually start with that. When we go to the result page, I need to look here. What we're going to do is we're going to get the one-time password and the success. We're going to say const OTP is equal to, and this will be request.query.otp. Query holds all of our query parameters, the things you see in the URL address bar. And then we're going to say const success equals request.query. And this will be success. Nice. Now we can pass these through. So we can just say OTP, comma, success. And I think we might have to do this. So I'll just do this, OTP, OTP, and success, success. Now, if we go to the result template here, what I can do is I can say h2 is equal to, and I can just put the name of the OTP. So put OTP, and then I can say h2 is equal to success like that. Okay, so what this is doing is it's actually going to use this right here. It's going to use whatever OTP is that I passed through and whatever the success is. So you'll actually see the one-time password and you'll see the success. That's kind of how the syntax works for PUG. Okay, so let's restart this. I'm going to go here, refresh. Okay, and now notice when I refresh, it's showing me that one-time password and it's showing me the success message. Nice. Now, though, what we will do is we will send this kind of validation to TypingDNA. So the way we do that is we say typing, like this, TypingDNA, and this will be client, and then this is going to be .validate OTP, and we're going to pass here the email of the user we want to validate the one-time password for. So in this case, it will be the same email we passed before. Okay. If you were using phone number, you would pass the phone number here. And let me just look at my cheat sheet to make sure I'm not messing this up. Yeah, so we can put optionally phone number empty string, and then you could make this a valid phone number, obviously the phone number of the user you wanted to validate. And then you're going to pass as a separate parameter. Notice these are two different parameters here. There's an object and then the one-time password. You're just passing the one-time password. Okay, so that will send the request. But then what we need to do is wait for a response. We're going to say .then. We're going to say data like that. And then what we're going to do is have a function here where we actually look at this data. So for now, I'm just going to say console.log data, but in a minute, we'll actually use this data. Okay, so there we go. Now, as soon as we go to the result page, we're actually going to validate, the OTP like that. And then we'll pass the email of the user we want to validate for, or the phone number, and then, of course, the one-time password, which we're getting from that page. Nice. So let's go now, and let's just start the process again. So let's go to /verify. Okay. We're going to verify with TypingDNA. We're going to type this in. Yellow toothbrush, socks, fireman. I don't know how I keep making the same spelling mistake, but there you go. Okay. And then notice we get results. 2476561, but I didn't see anything logging. Sorry, that's because I didn't restart the server. Okay, got to restart the server and we'll redo this again. Okay, so let's go back to /verify. Let's go verify with TypingDNA. Yellow toothbrush, socks, fireman. Okay, verify. And then we're still not getting anything printing out. Okay, this is interesting that I'm not seeing this. So give me a second, guys, and I'll be right back. Okay, so it turns out I was thinking for some reason that it was going to show this on the web page, but instead it's showing it right here. So this actually is working. We're seeing it. It says success 1, code 19, message, OTP given matches, shows us the session ID and gives us the status code. So we are getting this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pass through this message. That's really the only thing we care about from this, to our result page and display that message. So what we need to do is we need to put the res.render inside of here. And then what we're going to do here is say that the message is equal to data.message, okay? All right, so let me save this. And now what's going to happen is we're going to pass through a message, which is whatever the data.message is, and then we'll display that message. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to result.pug. I'm just going to say h2 is equal to message, and now we should see the message of course, after we send this response. Nice. Now, just for good measures here, we'll add a catch. So we'll say .catch, we'll say e, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll say res.render, but this time for the message, we'll just render e. So whatever e is, I need to get rid of that. So whatever the error actually is, we'll just display that. Nice. And actually, I think we have to say e.message. Let me check if that's the way to do it. No, I think it is just actually e. Okay. Nice. So I think we've done almost all of the code. I'm going to restart the server here, and let's just do this again from the beginning. So let's go to our website. Let's go to, /verify. All right. And now let's verify with TypingDNA. Okay. So yellow, toothbrush, socks, fireman. Okay. Verify. And then notice it brings us to this page. We get results. We have the one-time password, 1, and we have the OTP given matches after we send that request. Nice. Now, the last thing I want to show you is the logs here. So if you go to TypingDNA and you go to the dashboard and you go to logs, you will see all of the stuff that you have sent. So notice the stuff in red is things that were not verified, right? And then you have the stuff in yellow, which have been partially verified. And then you have green, which means you are good to go, because you validated the OTP. So after the OTP was received, you sent it back to TypingDNA. It validated that it was indeed correct. And then it was like, okay, you're good. You have successfully authenticated your user. So that is kind of the flow there. You need to make sure you do that last step, which is you send the one-time password that you receive in the payload of the callback function back to TypingDNA. It gives you a response. You can look at that response and then determine whether or not that one-time password is correct. Okay, so let me zoom out here just so you guys can view all this code. All of this will be on GitHub, so you can check it out from there as well. But this is kind of what we're looking at here. We have our first route, which is for verify. We have our other one, which is for result. And then, of course, all the other stuff we need to do for the setup. Pretty straightforward. For our result page, we're just displaying some of those variables we're passing through and rendering. And then we have verify.pug. We need to make sure we have this script inside of here. We have our payload callback function. Again, you can change the name of this if you change this here. We then are showing this button. This button has all the important information that we need. If you didn't have this information, well, you saw you get an error. And then when we press this button, it starts that whole process, right? And I think with that, I'm going to conclude the video. So there's not really much more that I can talk about. I know this was a simple integration and that, it might have taken a long time for me to explain, but I wanted to make sure I really got through everything and made sure you guys weren't running into any errors at all with this. So let me know what you guys think. But one last thank you here to TypingDNA. Again, they have sponsored this video, but we have a great relationship and they really are just an awesome company that is really developer focused and wants to help you guys be able to implement this stuff as fast as possible. That's why they've made this new Verify API. Again, reminder, I have a video on the original authentication API. This is a little bit more difficult to use, but it is a bit more versatile, whereas the Verify API is just super simple, and you see it brings this nice pop-up, and everything just works nicely. All right, so with that said, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Of course, check out TypingDNA from the link in the description, and I will see you in another YouTube video.